try to make me feel embarrassed. Their attempts have been in vain, but they tell me I'm the one with problems. They're the ones who are insane, so for those who want but won't admit it, you shouldn't feel like that, cause you could be 20% cooler and 10 seconds slower. Shout it out. I'm proud to be a brony. Yeah, yeah. I'm proud to be a brony.
Hello mayors and gentle colts, my fellow bronies. Welcome to another episode of I'm Brony and I'm Proud. I've got Jess Flare with me. G'day, Jess.
Hello. I'm not female, I know, but anyways.
There you go, guys. It's official. Jess Flare is not a female. So sorry to break any hearts, but there you go. That's life. So Jess, how did you become a brony?
Towards the end of year 7 or 8, at my high school, we have game design class or whatever, but no one actually designs games in it. We'd usually have like a screw around for the last 20 minutes. I would go on meme base or I Can Has Cheeseburger or whatever. I see a subpage labeled bronies. Like, what on earth does that mean? I have no idea. So I click on it, multiple pages filled with technicolored ponies. All right, is this a thing? Is it fan art? Of course, I thought they were hilarious, so I would kind of keep to myself about it because, you know, as always, that part of the fandom where you're like remaining closeted or whatever. And then after like 2 months or so of watching a bunch of memes that were ponified or whatever, I decided to actually watch an episode, and that was the first episode of season 2. Which I don't know why, but I'm just like that, I guess. From then on, I revealed to my friends and got them into it too, so it took a while to get one friend of mine into the fandom. This was around about the time Skyrim came out, I think. He would always make those, like, oh, I took an arrow to the knee jokes or whatever. They always annoyed me. I said, oh, come on, just watch an episode. And he's all like, okay, but on one condition, you get to put up with my arrow to the knee jokes. And I'm like, fine, just watch an episode. And then he actually really liked it.
That's amazing. So yeah, from year 7 to year 8, to take a risk like that, becoming a brony in such a short time, and then announcing yourself is probably too strong a word, but then again, coming out as a brony, for me, it still seems like a big deal. But it sounds like your school or your friends are fairly accommodating.
They're really accepting, which is what I like about them.
So up to this point, you're still a bona fide brony.
I wouldn't classify myself as a brony anymore, but I'd still watch the show, if you will. The show is good and all, but like season 4 was kind of a bust, really, I guess, which kind of sucks.
I'm not denying that. There were a few episodes where it was like clearly a miss. Even that episode of Cheese Sandwich with Weird Al, for me, it was one of the weakest episodes in terms of story.
That's interesting because I thought that was the best episode all season.
Everything.
That episode was the only one that brought a smile to my face the second it came on.
But on that note, let's dig to the mind of Jess. And as I understand it, Jess is your alter ego.
Yes, she's the human version of a female version, which is actually a male version of my Ursi.
You might call me crazy, listeners, but I actually understand that 100%. So how did this come about?
Where all Ursi starts, I guess, the DeviantArt pony creator. The character kind of started out with kind of messy hair, and I was like, hey, that looks kind of interesting. I wonder what happens if I make this creepy. So I blacked out its eyes. I photoshopped in some blood effect or whatever coming from the eyes. And then I looked at that, and I was like, I think I could write a story for this. That's how I started my fan fiction called Equestrian Missing. It took me like a year to write. I had been putting all of my creative effort into it. Finished that. I was like, you know what? I could probably do what Mr. Creepypasta is doing, and I could read through this entire thing. I actually contacted Mr. Creepypasta and got him featured in the reading itself. So that was pretty cool.
So Mr. Creepypasta, who is this person?
On YouTube, he reads creepypasta. That's pretty much it. It's just a still image with some like wavy effects or whatever. And he reads stories that were posted on the Creepypasta wiki or the Creepypasta website. He's got like 300,000 subscribers, I think.
So if you indulge me, what is Equestrian Missing about?
In a nutshell, my OC, Rainbow Flare, who by some laws of something, is Rainbow Dash's brother, and he wakes up in his house in Cloudsdale to Equestria, which is just completely empty except for him.
Cool. That's like My Little Pony meets 28 Days Later.
Yeah, something along those lines. Or Silent Hill, depending on how you look at it.
Oh, I know, listeners, it's borderline fangasm, nerdgasm. What can you do? So how much of your own personal experiences do you bring into the story, or know that you are inspired to include in the story, or should I say creative license for the story you've created?
Well, video games played a large role in it. For instance, BioShock Infinite. The ending to that actually inspired the ending to the second story.
Are you telling me there's a sequel?
Yeah, and there's a third one in the makes too.
As I've said, listeners, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Even though bronies are some of the most talented people alive, they continue to create content in more ways than one. For me, doing this radio show is my own way of doing some kind of content, even though I'm technically sharing or promoting others. I mean, you've got the second story. What is that one about?
Is just him trying to get out of the nightmare.
It's understandable. You've got a lot of material to draw from for creating a dark story within a very peaceful, loving universe, which is not uncommon for artists to delve into that. Key subjects are life, death, sex, and food. And I know someone who has done art and had relatively combined all three, which I find fascinating. So Rainbow Flare is going relatively from one nightmare to another. One being conscious and now the unconscious. You're in the process of writing the third story to this saga. So, like the Cutie Mark Crusaders, are we hopeful in seeing some kind of resolution to Rainbow Flare's despair?
I never actually intended the third one to happen because of the ending to the second one, which I won't spoil because it's just mind blown. But the third one, just writing for the fans, I guess. This one is taking a bit more of a comedic approach. It's called Equestria Missing Memories, where essentially jumping from one point of view to the next, like first it'll be Rainbow Flare, then it'll jump to Fluttershy, then it'll jump to Twilight, jump to Rainbow Dash, jump to other characters from previous stories. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
So Jess, how does your mind work?
Pretty overtime, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot to say. And these stories seem quite dark. Do you see that as an inherent part of your personality, or do you see yourself as a happy person? And this venture is an outlet of exploring a darkness that people don't necessarily want to explore and do other things to combat that.
My friend always says that I'm pretty aggressive towards my OC because I put him through so much misery, like he'll lose his wings, his ear will tear off or something. Yeah, I think it's probably something deep down inside of me who's wanting to kill something, I guess. Not literally, though.
Totally understand you. I believe in each of us there is this dark side. And we also see actors who are generally good-natured people, and they explore all these facets of humanity on screen. But of course, at the same time, there's a huge radiating light. And for me, wow, MLP is sort of an example of that light, I reckon. And it's probably why so many bronies, so many people gravitate towards the show in one way or another, because we are bombarded by the darkness every day. One reason why I don't watch the news. MLP Universe has inspired this sort of next level of content creation. There are a lot of fandoms that probably can't compete on this. Other than Star Trek, that MLP is nipping the heels of. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess it makes sense because the show takes inspiration from Star Trek with Discord, what's his name?
John Delancey, aka Q from Star Trek Next Generation. And Discord is a total parallel on that character. Why?
Lauren Faust said in an interview that she was like, how do we explain Discord? Oh, he's a lot like Q from Star Trek. And then they're like, oh, can we get John Delancey?
One of those rare occasions where, the studio or, the executives actually have an awesome bit of input. If it was the executives, who knows? The only other example I could see is the film Shawshank Redemption.
I know of it. I haven't seen it though.
Basically, the film could have ended 5 minutes before I did, but the producer had the input to resolve the story a little further. It may have made the difference between the film winning an Oscar and not getting one. However, the ending is more than justified. The producer, as I see it, was right that it's the ending the audience would have wanted.
Which I guess makes sense.
Have you seen Stand By Me?
Yeah, I love that movie.
That's based on a short story as well. So what else can you tell us about you?
Like I mentioned with the storytelling, I like to play video games. Oh, so many good games, but there's also so many bad ones.
Care to elaborate?
Sonic 06, definitely bad. Grand Theft Auto 5 to an extent. Gameplay is amazing, and get online, you start to hate every fiber of its being. People are going to hate me for this. Skyrim, it looks pretty, I guess, but never really been a fan of Bethesda games. We can scratch that for Fallout 3, because I really like that game. Yeah, I think that's it.
So, that's the bad. So what is the good?
South Park The Stick of Truth. Red Dead Redemption, that's really good. Watch Dogs, that's really good too. The Last of Us is my all-time favorite game at the moment.
So where do you see yourself going? Or is it still too early to tell? Because, at this stage, I've been working in the film industry for about 10 years and still trying to make my mark.
I don't know. It's just really hard to figure out. I'm making a game that's inspired by that horror game that you might have heard of called Five Nights at Freddy's. And I actually got in contact with the creator of Five Nights, and he's allowed me to use the Five Nights universe. So that's pretty cool.
So awesome.
I know.
Well, that's cool. And how did you reach out to him?
On his website, he has fazbearshelp@gmail.com or whatever. I sent my pitch, hey, me and my friend are making a game. Is it all right if we use the Five Nights universe? And then I got like an automated reply saying, oh, this is just an automated reply. You're probably here to comment on the game or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. But below that, he put his business questions email address. And I sent the same email to his business address. And he got back to me with that, said that as long as I made it free, he's all for it.
Outstanding. So listeners, bronies, don't be afraid to ask. Just go for it. What's the worst answer you can get?
No.
So are you more of a coder or a designer? In these days, you're kind of required to do both.
I guess I am a bit of both. I programmed a couple of things, planning out aspect, drawing what the game should look like.
Do you do a fair bit of storyboarding, even previs?
I was planning on making a fully animated feature, but I realized how much creative energy it drains out of you. I kind of just gave up.
And not to mention the fact, highly ambitious. And from what you've told me about the stories, first thing that comes to mind in that video game context is slightly open world. And it might make for a perfect video game, even adapted for a mobile game, you know, sell it for 99 cents or, you know, or just pump out with advertising and get people to do 1 million downloads and, you know, bang, swish, bang.
Arrivederci. I was actually planning on making Equestria Missing a game. I still really, really want to do it. Kind of like the game Amnesia. It's first-person survival horror. You have nothing to defend yourself with. You're just like running away and hiding. I really wanted to do something like that with Equestria Missing.
No point doing it on your own. You need to have a team. Because like you're saying, it's too much work.
Yeah.
And of course, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Maybe just get someone who knows gaming engines. In this case, what you could do is maybe develop one level of the game, you know, maybe the Cloudstone level, you know, as Rainbow Flare is waking up and just exploring the surroundings.
Like the new development team for the new Silent Hill game, doing kind of a playable teaser.
Then crowdfund the hell out of it.
Yeah. I get sued by Hasbro.
There's that. You could pull a Twilight, and I'm not talking about Twilight Sparkle. We could always pull a 50 Shades of Grey. Originally a Twilight fan fiction.
I know of that, yeah.
Listeners, I'm sure you're aware of this. At the 11th hour, and the 11th hour means going to be sued for a whole lot of money, the author changed the names of the characters, and it's now one of the biggest best-selling books in the world.
It's so ironic that people look down on pornography and stuff like that, yet we're allowed to have 50 Shades of Grey on our store shelves.
Well, the way I see it, Jess, everyone's got this dark side, regardless of gender, and some of which could be of a sexual nature. And 50 Shades of Grey provides readers with a way of experiencing that without jumping out of themselves completely. What do you think about that?
It's a bad story. Horribly written. Wonder how it became New York's bestseller. That is all.
Since when are bestsellers well written?
True, true.
Bestsellers are the most popular. Translation of brilliant books into film rarely works. I haven't read The Lord of the Rings, but for me, value for money was amazing to see a 3-hour film for $20. And they did it 3 times, and Peter Jackson captures the universe really well. Of course, you can't include everything. That's what the DVDs were for. I've only seen the trilogy once, and that was at the cinema. And I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it again because it was that dense and rich. I'm not sure how many people have watched Lord of the Rings since then. Sure, there's a few, and there's the fandom associated with that as well.
On the subject of Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies. First one was really good, but the second one wasn't like amazing like everyone was saying it is.
One of the few books I have read has been The Hobbit. I read that when I was like 7 years old. I now know that's too young, or at least for me. The book is not as big as Lord of the Rings, far from it. And still, they're making 3 films out of it. You know what? If it works, milk it. I think there's going to be more Hobbit films to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Coming back to you. So here's a hypothetical. How would you like to see Equestria Missing visualized?
I'd choose video game, but as long as I had the developers for BioShock Infinite on it.
And of course, to avoid any potential copyright infringement. In essence, you would have to replace the characters or re-visualize the characters for the new industry. Well, avoid being sued. How would you re-visualize the characters in a new setting?
Definitely have to make them human, different species, I guess.
One more question on the subject. If Hasbro licensed your game, undoubtedly they would want to have their input in its development. Would you take them up on their offer?
I'd say no. My stories are a bit more on the mature side. The first time I posted the second story, it actually got removed because I had put it under a teen rating. It was verbally graphic, I guess. Had put in a lot of swearing and stuff. Told me to change it to mature before I reposted.
So where can our listeners find Equestria Missing?
My YouTube channel, I guess. youtube.com/built to scale videos. all as one word. Or you can read it at friendshipismagicfiction.net.
Because I'm Brony and I'm Proud is happy, more than happy. In fact, it feels obligated to touch on the subject of Rainbow Dash. Loyalty is our business, and we want to help promote new and rising talent, not just in Australia, but worldwide. Bronies, if you want to promote content that you've created, one thing you have to do, come on the show, and we're happy to help you out. Jess, I want to thank you very much for being on the show.
That's okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners?
Goodbye.
Bye, Jess. This has been I'm Brony and I'm Proud. Lucky Knight speaking. Thanks for listening. Remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IBAIPshow. Proud to be a Brony. Intro and outro by Black Griffin. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic.
My little pony. I used to wonder what friendship could be. My little pony.